Rev up your engines!
Well, a GM Fort Wayne production plant is going to pause production. Now they say they're temporarily shutting it down at a light-duty truck plant. I quote GM. Of course, we got to read into this one. Fort Wayne Assembly has paused production for 1 week due to a temporary supply chain issue. Well, you never know what the real reason is, but it probably is a supply chain issue. Nobody is supplying them with money to buy the cars, so they better not make them. They're already piling up. That would be a money supply one. Now, if it is an actual supply chain, it's GM's own fault for being stupid and not doing what Henry Ford did, which was a totally vertically integrated system where they made all the stuff themselves. They're getting parts from here, there, everywhere else, and if the other place doesn't supply the part, guess what? They can't make the trucks because they don't have seats or they don't have whatever. Right? It shows if you run a business and you're making something, it behooves you put your ducks in a row, have them all ready. Better like Henry Ford to do it yourself, but now they want to save money, so they farm it out. Oh, these guys can make them cheaper, and all of a sudden, gee, they didn't make them. No, we can't get parts. No, we can't make them. So either way, it's bad. Whether they can't get the parts to build them or whether they can't get the people to buy them, it doesn't look good for GM and Fort Wayne. Well, if you think you got it bad, imagine if you bought one of those Ocean Fiskers, because now the Ocean Fisker owners have to pay for recalls. Things are recalled by a manufacturer. They're supposed to fix them for free. Well, of course, the company is bankrupt, but some strange deal. The remaining unsold Ocean SUVs were purchased by American Lease, which was supposed to handle software updates and recalls for existing and future customers. So now they have recalls. They're supposed to fix them. Well, they're saying, you take it to the repair place. We'll supply the parts, but you have to pay the labor and the towing and whatever. Now, by the end of this month, September, Fisker, this lease company, says we'll issue a list of authorized service centers to all the customers, but we only cover the cost of the parts themselves. The customers will have to pay for the inspections and the labor. It's surprising they're even going to get that. A company goes bankrupt. Well, one company bought all these other ones, and as part of the deal, them buying them so cheap is that they're going to have to cover repairs under warranty. Well, come on. How long is that going to last? That company will probably file for bankruptcy if there's too much money is spent buying parts of the stupid things. And if you bought an Ocean Fisker, you got to have to admit it, you screwed up. You bought a stupid electric car from a stupid company that doesn't even exist anymore, and then hope you're going to get anything fixed for nothing is pretty much it's not going to happen, right? Can you imagine a regular manufacturer? Well, we got a recall now. We'll give you the part, but you got to pay to put it on. You got to pull the engine to put that part on. So that's going to be $1,800 labor or whatever, So, more bad news for people buying electric cars. Calvin says, I bought an 07 Nissan Maxima from a third party. The woman said, she didn't change the spark plugs or anything, so I did that. And the next day, I tried to start the car, but it wouldn't start. The RPM would go up and then die down, go up and then die down. I changed the spark plugs, ignition coils, that didn't fix. Help. There's a lot of reasons they can go up and down when you start the car. The first thing you want to do is check for a vacuum leak. If a hose clamp came off the intake, you'll see it'll be loose and it'll suck air. Sometimes it is a 17-year-old car. The vacuum lines will break and you'll see they fell off and you hear them sucking air. Now, if that isn't it, watch my video, make your car run better with a little spray cleaner. Sometimes cleaning the throttle and the mass airflow sensor will do it. And another thing that I often see go wrong with Maximas, you could have an ignition fault in the ignition switch assembly, the electrical assembly. Because a lot of times when they go bad, it'll start, and then when you let go of the key, it'll die down because the switch is going out. Those are the most common things. It could be a lot of things. It's a Nissan and it's old, but those are the most common things that'll do that. So check them first. Well, you want to know the cars that get the worst gas mileage that are sold today? Well, here they are. Numero uno is a 2024 Bugatti Chiron Supersport. We know it's going to be a supercar thing, right? It gets about 8 miles a gallon in town. Okay, 8, pretty bad, right? What's number 2? The Bentley Continental GT, another gigantic gas hog. But it gets better. It gets 12 miles a gallon in the city. And these are rated ones. You know you get worse because you drive them fast. You get even worse. I've had people drive those things. They get 3 miles a gallon in the city. The next one is the Lamborghini Urus Performance. It gets 14 miles a gallon. And the last one is a Rolls-Royce Cullinan. What a stupid name. Rolls-Royce Cullinan. How do they come up with these stupid names, right? It gets 12 miles a gallon in the city, too. Realize it's a BMW V12 engine. BMW makes the engines. So they're big, heavy vehicles with big engines. Of course, they're going to get bad gas mileage. And like I said, that's the rated gas mileage. You drive fast in those things, they'll get 3 miles a gallon in the city. I mean, so they even lie about the gas mileage of the ultra luxury cars. Like, what would you care if you're spending, $500,000 or more on a car? Would you really care about the gas mileage? Although it's kind of showing up that the ultra rich, they don't want electric versions of those cars because they're too inconvenient. They would run out of electricity way too fast. At least they said have big gas tanks in them. Well, here's a hilarious one. An SUV failed at its auto parking and it drove away without the owner. Okay? Now, this took place in China. And the guy's got his SUV. It's a 3-row, 6-passenger car made by a company called Li Auto. You can't buy it in the United States, so it's not going to happen here yet. The guy walks away from his car. But before he gets in the building, the car's starting to park itself. It spends 45 seconds slowly inching forwards and backwards, but it never properly parked itself. And then, just like a human who can't get in, the car gives up and starts driving away. But the guy runs out and stops it. This SUV was blocking the roadway, facing the wrong direction, but eventually he got it stopped long enough they could hop in the car and drive it himself. So much for smart driving technology. This post, you gotta watch it. It's hilarious. It's on X, and it's called Competition is Coming. Watch Tesla's competitors' auto park go wrong. And it is hilarious. I'm watching it right now. And there it is. It's trying to park itself, and then it gives up and goes in the street in the wrong way. I mean, it's hilarious. You gotta watch it. It's on X. It's one of the funnier videos I've seen in quite some time. They're trying to make sustainable fuels. Well, I did the other day. Company that did it out west, it's gone out of business. It's gone. It turns out that a magazine called Biofuels International had an article titled Sustainable Airline Fuel. Is it all hype and no substance? Well, it looks like a lot of it is. They're trying to say, well, we'll add 1% sustainable aviation fuel to it. Oh, and then we'll add 10% by 2030, blah, 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 blah. What people don't understand is the tremendous amount of fuel that's used in airplanes. For example, 2023, the world used 91 billion gallons. That's a lot of aviation fuel, right? You're not going to be making this out of waste. And I mean, the whole thing is kind of patently absurd when it comes down to it. They're lucky that the stuff can be blended because some of the stuff they make this sustainable airline fuel out of is raw materials like cooking oil, feedstock, woody biomass, animal fat, crops, or waste. I'm sure there's not 92 billion gallons worth of that stuff just lying around, right? We use a tremendous amount of fuel in the 21st century, and airplanes are one of the biggest users of fuel. They are tremendous fuel hogs, and they're trying to act like we're going to make airlines sustainable. No, they'll never be sustainable. They're gigantic machines flying through the air at 500 miles an hour. They'll never be sustainable. They'll never make electric battery airplanes that can go 500 miles an hour and go very far for very long, right? And even if they got something that worked, okay, so then you land in Dallas and they're like, well, there's going to be a 5-hour wait while we charge these giant batteries up, right? I mean, and sustainable airline fuel, even that biomass guys are saying, is this all hype? A lot of it is hype. It's just a good thing for them that it can be blended. So you can get the regular fuel and you can blend it. Just like they put ethanol in the gasoline you drive, 10 or 15% ethanol in the gasoline we burn in our cars. It can be blended, so a certain percentage. But there's no way these things are going to be running on 100% sustainable stuff for very far, for very long. It just takes too much. They did one out of coconut oil in England, I guess, and the plane could go like 300 miles and it took, 10, 20 million coconuts in order to make the fuel for that one trip. So Let's say it's not sustainable, people. Well, in Michigan, college students say they now have an innovative charging network for EV cars, and it could change the future. So they got charging stations at this university in Michigan that they put up, just a few, of course, and they have solar panels. Well, one, it's Michigan. You ever been to Michigan in the winter? Most of the time kids go to school, it's the winter. There isn't that much sunshine in Michigan in the winter, right? But even regardless of that, even if you had these solar panels in a desert, if you have any idea how much energy it takes to charge an electric battery in a car, a tremendous amount of energy, and how long it would take these things in a cold Michigan winter to store up enough electricity in their battery system to charge a car and make your head spin. But then they say, well, when they're not being charged, the energy can go back to the grid to be used at the university buildings. It would be such a tiny amount of electricity, it would be worthless. Of course, this is the thing the students are doing, so it's some project for the engineering students, right? To try to validate their existence, I guess. I don't know. I've seen charging stations that have solar panels on them, and when you find out, basically, that'll run the lights at night for the charging station. It's not going to really be charging up any cars. It would take so long for those little solar panels, which is all they have there. It's not like they're putting a whole field of them, and even then, it takes so many of them to get enough electricity to charge a car. It's just a tremendous amount of electricity. Plus, they're going to have a battery storage system. How long is that going to last before it breaks? How much is that going to cost? Do they even measure the cost? They're probably, such a university, they're probably spending like $100,000 making something. And, you know, it creates $400 of energy a year. Some nonsense like that, right? They never give me the full figures. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.